The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as the final vote appeared on the display screens. Green lights dominated the board. 247 species had voted in favor. Only 3 abstained. None opposed. The kinetic weapons ban was now universal law. Ambassador Taiyang stood at the human delegation's podium, his dark suit feeling heavier than usual. Around him, aliens of every shape and size celebrated. The insectoid Threll clicked their mandibles in approval. The gaseous winner shifted their containment fields in patterns that meant joy. Even the normally stoic Corthan delegation stamped their feet in rhythm. The chief counselor, a tall Viridian with blue skin and 4 arms, raised 2 of them for attention. The celebration quieted. His voice boomed through the translation systems installed throughout the vast hall. Today marks a new era for galactic civilization. We have agreed, all of us, that weapons of kinetic force are barbaric relics. Chemical explosives, railguns, mass drivers, and all projectile weapons using propellants or electromagnetic acceleration are now forbidden in civilized space. We move forward with clean energy weapons with plasma and lasers and particle beams. We leave behind the crude brutality of throwing metal at our enemies. More celebration erupted. Taiyang felt sick to his stomach. He knew what this meant for humanity. Earth's military power had always relied on kinetic weapons. Railguns could punch through almost any armor. Mass drivers on ships could devastate planets. Now, all of that was illegal, but he had no choice. Earth needed the Galactic Council. They needed the trade routes, the technology exchanges, the protection of being part of something larger. 50 other human representatives sat behind him, all wearing the same forced smiles. They all knew what was being given up. Tyng pressed his thumb to the signing pad. A green light confirmed Earth's agreement. The treaty was complete. 3 weeks later, Commander Minho sat in his office on Luna Base, studying the treaty document for the 100th time. His team was gathered around him. Jiwoo, his weapons specialist, leaned against the wall with her arms crossed. Hejin, the engineering officer, scrolled through technical specifications on her tablet. 2 other officers watched from their seats. "Read that section again," Jiwoo said, pointing at the screen. Minho cleared his throat. "Any device that propels solid matter through kinetic force for combat purposes using chemical propellants, electromagnetic acceleration, or compressed gas is hereby banned from production, deployment, or use. Chemical propellants, electromagnetic acceleration, compressed gas," Jiwoo repeated slowly. "Those are the 3 things they banned." "Right," Minho said. "Those are the 3 ways modern weapons work. Bullets use chemical explosives. Railguns use electromagnets. Gauss rifles use compressed gas." They covered everything. Did they, though? Jiwoo asked. Haijin looked up from her tablet. "What do you mean?" "I mean they listed 3 specific mechanisms. What if there's a 4th way to throw something hard enough to hurt someone?" Minho frowned. "Like what?" Jiwoo shrugged. "I don't know yet. But legal documents are specific for a reason. They didn't say all projectile weapons. They said projectile weapons that use those 3 methods." "File it away," Minho said. "Right now we have bigger problems. The Vrelian pirates have hit 5 colonies in the last month. Without our railguns, we can't penetrate their shields." That was the real crisis. The Galactic Council had sold humanity energy weapons and plasma rifles. They came with energy shields for defense. The problem was that the shields were expensive and humanity didn't have many of them yet. But the pirates and raiders did. They had shields that could stop plasma bolts and laser fire. When human security forces tried to fight back with their new energy weapons, the battles went badly. The pirates just walked through the plasma fire, their shields glowing but holding. Then they fired back. Human forces had to retreat again and again. On the frontier colony of New Jeju, Security Chief Daeyun reviewed the damage reports from the latest raid. 15 dead, 30 wounded, half the mining equipment destroyed or stolen. The governor sat across from him, looking tired and scared. "We can't keep taking losses like this," the governor said. The people are talking about abandoning the colony. We need better shields, Daeyeon replied. Or more energy weapons. The council promised shipments, but they keep getting delayed. The council doesn't care about a small colony on the edge of space. We're on our own. Daeyeon knew she was right. New Jeju had 3,000 people, mostly miners and farmers. They had 12 security officers. Their weapons were second-hand plasma rifles that overheated after 10 shots. Their shields were personal units that barely stopped a single hit. The Vrelian pirates had military-grade equipment. 20 or 30 raiders with top-tier shields could walk through anything Daeyeon's team could throw at them. The math was simple and brutal. There has to be something we can do, Daeyeon said. Pray that Minho and his people figure something out, the governor replied. Because if they don't, we're finished. Back on Luna Base, Minho held a meeting with his senior staff. Representatives from all of humanity's military branches attended through hologram. The mood was grim. We've lost 12 colonies to raids in 5 weeks, the admiral said. Earth's council is demanding answers. What do we tell them? Tell them the truth, Minho said. We gave up our best weapons for a treaty. Now we're paying the price. That won't help the people dying on the frontier, I know. Minho looked at the faces around the table. We need solutions. Anyone have ideas? Silence filled the room. Then Jiwoo spoke up. I've been thinking about that treaty language. About what it doesn't say. Go on, the admiral said. It bans weapons using chemical propellants, electromagnetic acceleration, or compressed gas. Those are the only 3 methods listed. But there are other ways to store and release energy: tension, elastic potential. Springs and strings? You're talking about bows and arrows? An officer said with disbelief in his voice. I'm talking about anything the treaty doesn't explicitly forbid, Jiwoo replied. We signed away guns. Nobody said anything about medieval weapons. Some officers laughed. Others looked angry at what seemed like a joke. But Minho didn't laugh. Neither did Heijin. They both stared at Jiwoo with growing understanding. The treaty really doesn't mention elastic potential weapons, Heijin said slowly. Bows, crossbows, slings, catapults, none of those use the 3 banned mechanisms. You're seriously suggesting we fight aliens with bows and arrows? The admiral asked. I'm suggesting we explore every option, Jiwoo said. Because right now we have no options at all. Minho closed the treaty document on his screen. For the first time in weeks, he felt something like hope. Jiwoo walked into the research lab carrying an old wooden bow. She placed it on the table in front of Minho and Heijin. Both of them stared at it like it was an alien artifact. This is a traditional Korean composite bow, Jiwoo explained. My grandfather made it by hand. Horn, wood, and sinew. It's over 40 years old, and it can still send an arrow through a wooden board at 50 meters. Minho picked it up carefully. It was lighter than he expected. The curve was elegant, almost artistic. And you think this can fight pirates with energy shields? Not this exactly. But the principle, yes. A bow stores energy in bent limbs. When you release the string, that energy transfers to the arrow. No chemicals. No electromagnets. No compressed gas. Just elastic potential energy. Heijin was already typing on her tablet. The treaty language is clear. They never mentioned tension-based weapons. I think Jiwoo might be right. Right about what? Minho asked. That we should arm our soldiers with wooden sticks and feathers? No, Jiwoo said patiently. That we should use modern materials to recreate ancient weapons. Carbon fiber instead of wood? Kevlar strings instead of sinew? Tungsten-tipped arrows instead of stone or iron? Take the basic design and upgrade it with 400 years of materials science. Heijin's eyes lit up. I can design that. Give me 2 weeks. We don't have 2 weeks, Minho said. The council is meeting next month to review colony security. If we don't have something by then, they're going to pull our frontier settlements back. We'll lose 1/3 of our territory. Then give me 1 week, Haijin said. Minho looked between the two women. They were serious. Completely serious about bringing medieval weapons to modern warfare. It was insane, but they had no other options. 1 week, he agreed. But we keep this quiet. If the council hears we're researching bows and arrows, they'll think we've lost our minds. 3 days later, Haijin had her first prototype. She called in Youngji, a test pilot known for trying anything once. Youngji had flown experimental fighters, tested zero-gravity combat suits, and volunteered for the first human-alien contact mission. She was fearless and slightly crazy. You want me to shoot what? Youngji asked, staring at the device in Haijin's hands. It's a compound bow. See these pulleys at the ends? They use mechanical advantage to store more energy with less effort. This particular model has carbon fiber limbs and a tensile strength of 80 pounds. The arrows are aircraft aluminum with tungsten carbide tips. Youngji took the bow. It felt solid, well-balanced. Modern somehow, despite being based on ancient technology. What am I shooting at? Haijin led her to the testing range. A ballistic gel dummy stood at the far end, wearing standard combat armor, the kind most species use for their soldiers. Next to it was a dummy wearing a personal energy shield, the glowing blue field visible around its body. Try the armored one first, Haijin said. Youngji had never shot a bow before, but she was an athlete and a soldier. Haijin showed her the basics. How to knock the arrow, draw the string, aim, and release. After a few practice shots, Youngji started to get the feel for it. She drew the string back fully, aimed, and released. The arrow flew faster than she expected. It hit the armored dummy in the chest and punched straight through, emerging from the back. The tungsten tip had penetrated 2 inches of combat-grade armor like it was paper. Okay, Youngji said. That's impressive. But what about the shield? Try it, Haijin said with a smile. Youngji knocked another arrow. She aimed at the shielded dummy and released. The arrow flew true. The energy shield flickered as the arrow approached, trying to deflect it. But energy shields were designed to stop energy weapons and explosives. They worked by creating electromagnetic fields that absorbed or deflected plasma, lasers, and particle beams. A solid physical object moving at 200 meters per second wasn't something the shield knew how to handle. The arrow passed through the blue glow like it wasn't there. It hit the dummy in the head. The tungsten tip went through one side of the skull and out the other. Youngji lowered the bow slowly. The shield didn't stop it at all. Energy shields operate on specific principles, Haijin explained. They're tuned to detect and counter energy signatures. A dumb physical object moving purely on kinetic force doesn't register as a threat until it's too late. By the time the shield's sensors detect the arrow, it's already through. This could actually work, Youngji said quietly. Word of the successful test spread quickly through the human military command. Within days, Minho had authorization to expand the project. He brought in Sun He, a military historian who specialized in pre-gunpowder warfare. Sun He arrived at Luna, base with boxes full of old books and digital files. She set up in a conference room and covered the walls with diagrams of ancient weapons. Longbows from medieval Europe, composite bows from Korea and Mongolia, crossbows from China, even stranger devices like the Wacha, a Korean cart-mounted multiple rocket arrow launcher. People think ancient weapons were primitive, Sun He explained to the assembled team. But our ancestors spent thousands of years perfecting these designs. English longbowmen trained from childhood and could pierce plate armor at 100 meters. Korean horse archers could shoot accurately while riding at full gallop. These weren't toys. They were battlefield weapons that won wars. But can they win wars now? Minho asked. With modern materials? Absolutely. Look at this. Sun He pulled up a video on her tablet. It showed historical footage of longbow demonstrations. An expert archer firing 12 arrows in a minute, each one hitting a target at 60 meters. That rate of fire was impressive 700 years ago. Now imagine it with carbon fiber bows that never tire, strings that never fray, and arrows that can penetrate tank armor. Haijin was already sketching designs. I can make crossbows with compound mechanisms. They'll have the power of a longbow, but require less training and strength to use. Perfect for soldiers who don't have time to train for years. What about range? An officer asked. Modern compound bows can shoot accurately at 100 meters, some even further. Sun He said. Crossbows less so, maybe 60 meters effectively. But in ship corridors or colony defense, most combat happens at under 50 meters anyway. Jiwoo held up one of the new arrows. I've been working on specialized ammunition. We have armor-piercing tips, explosive heads that detonate on impact, EMP arrows that can disable electronics, and even grappling arrows with cable lines for boarding actions. You're serious about the grappling arrows? Youngji asked. Why not? If we're going medieval, let's go all the way. The team worked around the clock for 2 more days. By the end of the week, they had 6 different weapon prototypes. Traditional longbows for accuracy and range, compound bows for power and efficiency, heavy crossbows for armor penetration, repeating crossbows for rapid fire, and one experimental wacha loaded with explosive arrows Minho called Admiral Chun through secure channels. He explained the project, expecting resistance or mockery. Instead, the Admiral was quiet for a long moment. The treaty really doesn't cover these weapons, the Admiral finally asked. We've had 3 different lawyers review it. As long as we don't use chemical propellants, electromagnets, or compressed gas, we're legal. Then test them in combat. I'll authorize deployment to New Jeju. Daeun's team needs help immediately. If these work, we'll expand production. If they don't, at least we tried something? Minho ended the call and looked at his team. They all wore expressions mixing excitement and nervousness. Pack everything, he told them. We're going to New Jeju. Time to see if ancient weapons can save modern lives. Daeun stood on the landing pad as the transport ship touched down. He was expecting weapons crates, maybe some new plasma rifles or shield generators. Instead, Minho walked down the ramp carrying what looked like a bow. Behind him came Jiwoo, Haijin, Youngji, and 3 other specialists. They all carried similar strange equipment. Please tell me those aren't what I think they are, Daeun said. Depends on what you think they are, Minho replied. If you think they're the weapons that are going to save this colony, then yes. Daeun rubbed his face. The pirates are coming back. Our intelligence says they're planning a major raid on Broken Shield Station. That's our main mining facility. 300 workers. If we lose it, the colony fails. And you brought bows and arrows? Trust me, Jiwoo said, stepping forward. I know how it looks. But these work. The shields the pirates use are designed for energy weapons. They won't stop physical projectiles. Show me, Daeun said. They set up a demonstration in the colony's training yard. Daeun brought his entire security team, all 12 of them. They watched skeptically as Youngji explained the weapons and demonstrated their use. She shot arrows through combat armor. She put bolts through energy shields. She showed them the explosive-tipped arrows and the EMP arrows. By the end of the demonstration, the skepticism had turned to cautious interest. One of the security officers, a young woman named Hannah, picked up a crossbow and tested its weight. How long to learn this? Hannah asked. Basic competency in 1 day, Youngji said. Expert level takes longer, but you don't need to be an expert. Just point, aim, and pull the trigger. The crossbow does most of the work. We have 3 days before the raid, Daeun said. Can you train 50 people in 3 days? We can try, Minho replied. The next 72 hours were intense. Youngji and her team worked with every security officer, miner, and colonist who volunteered. They started with crossbows because they were easiest to learn. Point and shoot, like a rifle but slower. Then they moved to compound bows for those with more strength and coordination. Sun He taught them basic tactics. How to use cover. How to shoot and move. How to coordinate volleys. She showed them videos of ancient battles, explaining how archers had worked in groups to devastating effect. The key is discipline, Sunhee explained. You're not action heroes. You don't run around shooting one arrow at a time. You work as a unit. Half of you shoot while the other half reload. Constant pressure. Never give them a break. On the third day, the pirates came. 28 Vrelian raiders and 2 assault ships. They landed near Broken Shield Station in the early morning when most workers were just starting their shifts. The Vrelians were confident. They had hit this colony twice before. The human security force was weak, poorly armed, and easily overwhelmed. The pirates wore their best armor and shields. Their leader, a scarred veteran named Krell, led the charge personally. He wanted this raid to be the one that broke the colony completely. After this, the humans would abandon New Jeju, then the Vrelians could claim the mining rights for themselves. The pirates stormed through the station's main entrance, their shields glowing bright blue. They fired plasma rifles down the corridors, expecting return fire. Instead, they heard nothing. The silence was unusual. Normally, the humans would be shooting back by now, their weak plasma rifles sizzling against Vrelian shields. Where are they? One pirate asked. Hiding, Krell said. They know they can't win. Spread out. Find them. Kill anyone who resists. The pirates split into groups and moved deeper into the station. That's when the first arrow hit. A security officer named Taijin, hiding in an upper corridor, released his crossbow bolt. It flew silently through the air and struck a pirate in the neck, right in the gap between helmet and chest armor. The pirate fell without making a sound. The other pirates spun around, confused. They hadn't heard a weapon fire. They hadn't seen an energy discharge. Their shields hadn't even activated. The dead pirate just collapsed suddenly. What was that? A pirate shouted. Another arrow answered, this one from a different direction. It hit a pirate's shield, but, to everyone's shock, passed straight through. The pirate looked down at the arrow sticking out of his chest. He fell backward, dead before hitting the ground. Energy shields aren't working. Someone screamed. Krell tried to rally his troops, but chaos was spreading. Arrows came from everywhere now. The humans had positioned themselves throughout the station in elevated positions, behind cover in side corridors. They fired in coordinated volleys. Just like Sunhee had taught them, Youngji led a squad of 10 in the station's main assembly area. She had the compound bow, which had more range than the crossbows. She spotted Krell across the open space and drew her string back. The arrow flew true. Krell's shield flickered uselessly. At the last second, Krell dove behind a cargo container. The arrow missed by inches. Focus on the shield users, Youngji shouted. They think the shields will save them. Prove them wrong. The battle turned into a nightmare for the Vrelians. Every tactical advantage they had relied on suddenly meant nothing. Their shields were expensive, power-draining equipment that offered zero protection. Their plasma rifles were loud, giving away their positions. While the human arrows came in silence, Daeyeon coordinated the defense from the control room, watching security cameras and directing his people through radio. He saw Hana, the young officer who had picked up that first crossbow, take down 3 pirates in quick succession. She was calm, methodical, treating each shot like a training exercise. In the station's lower level, Jiwoo had set up the experimental Wacha with 4 volunteers. The Wacha was mounted on wheels loaded with 20 explosive arrows. When a group of 8 pirates tried to storm through the cargo bay, Jiwoo gave the signal. Her team lit the fuses. 20 arrows launched simultaneously. The cart rocked back from the force. The arrows arced through the air and fell on the pirates like burning rain. Explosions filled the cargo bay. When the smoke cleared, all 8 pirates were down. None of them had survived. Krell realized his raid was falling apart. Half his people were dead or wounded. The humans, who should have been easy prey, were picking them off like they were nothing. His shields were useless. His armor barely helped. And those damned arrows kept coming from everywhere. Retreat, Krell shouted. Back to the ships. The surviving pirates ran. Arrows chased them all the way to the landing pad. 4 more fell before they reached their ships. The assault vessels lifted off fast, leaving their dead behind. They fled into orbit and jumped to hyperspace as soon as possible. At Broken Shield Station, the defenders lowered their weapons. They had won. Against a superior force with better equipment, they had won. The station's floors were covered with Vrelian batas and spent arrows. Human casualties were surprisingly light. 3 wounded, none seriously. 0 deaths. Dae-Yun found Minho in the command center. The commander was reviewing battle footage, analyzing what had worked and what needed improvement. He looked tired but satisfied. "I owe you an apology," Dae-Yun said. "I thought you were crazy." "I thought we were crazy too," Minho admitted. But Jiwoo was right. Sometimes the old solutions are the best ones. What happens now? Minho pulled up a communication screen. "Now we show the galaxy what happened here. I'm sending this battle footage to every human colony and to the Galactic Council. Let them see what their treaty loophole created. The Council won't be happy." "No," Minho agreed. "But we're not breaking any laws. We followed their rules exactly. If they have a problem with that, they should have written a better treaty." Youngji entered the command center, still carrying her compound bow. She had a wide smile on her face. "The colonists are already asking for archery training. Everyone wants to learn now." "Good," Minho said. "Because this is just the beginning. If bows and arrows work here, they'll work everywhere. We're going to bring back every pre-gunpowder weapon we can find, modernize them, and show the galaxy what humanity does best." "What's that?" Dae-Yun asked. "We adapt. We survive. And we win." The footage from Broken Shield Station spread across human space faster than anyone expected. Within a week, every colony had seen it. Within 2 weeks, it had leaked to alien networks. Within a month, the entire galaxy was talking about the humans and their ancient weapons. The reactions varied wildly. Some species laughed. The elegant Thrall found it amusing that humans would resort to Stone Age tools in modern warfare. The warrior Korthan were insulted, claiming it showed disrespect to proper military doctrine. But other species, particularly the smaller ones that had suffered under aggressive neighbors, paid very close attention. On Earth, Sun-Hee found herself overwhelmed with requests. Military bases wanted archery training. Colonies needed weapon designs. Private security companies offered massive contracts. She went from being a military historian that nobody cared about to one of the most important people in human defense. She opened 3 training academies in the first month. 1 on Earth, 1 on Mars, and 1 on Luna Base. Former Olympic archers became weapons instructors overnight. Recreational bow hunters found themselves teaching special forces soldiers. Even traditional martial arts schools started offering classes in historical combat archery. "The waiting list is 6 months long," Sun-Hee told Minho during a video call. "Everyone wants to learn?" "Athletes, soldiers, even teenagers. It's become a cultural movement." "That's good," Minho said. "We need as many trained people as possible. The pirates won't stop just because we won once." He was right. 2 weeks after the Battle of Broken Shield Station, Vrelian raiders hit a mining outpost called Red Canyon. But this time the colonists were ready. They had crossbows. They had training. And they had something to prove. The Vrelians lost 18 raiders without killing a single human. They retreated again, even faster than before. Word spread among the pirate clans. Human colonies were no longer easy targets. Meanwhile, Haijin pushed her engineering team to their limits. The basic bows and crossbows were just the start. She wanted to explore every possibility. Her workshop on Luna Base became a strange mix of medieval armory and high-tech laboratory. "Look at this," she said, showing Jiwoo a new arrow design. The tip was hollow and filled with a gray paste. MP payload. When it hits, it releases an electromagnetic pulse that disables electronics in a 3-meter radius. Perfect for taking out combat drones or powered armor. "Does it work?" Jiwoo asked. "Watch." Haijin loaded the arrow into a crossbow and fired it at a combat drone hovering in the test chamber. The arrow struck. Blue electricity crackled across the drone's surface. It fell from the air, completely dead. Jiwoo whistled appreciatively. What else have you developed? Haijin walked her through the workshop. She showed off grappling arrows with retractable cables, useful for boarding enemy ships or scaling walls. Incendiary arrows that burned hot enough to melt through bulkhead doors. Tracer arrows that left a phosphorescent trail for marking targets. Even non-lethal arrows with rubber tips for crowd control. The versatility is incredible, Haijin explained. With gunpowder weapons, you're limited by barrel design and ammunition caliber. But arrows? We can make them do almost anything. Different tips, different shafts, different flights. Each one can be customized for a specific mission. The redesigned Hwacha was Haijin's proudest achievement. The original Korean design from the 15th century had been a cart-mounted arrow launcher, basically a medieval rocket artillery system. Haijin's version used modern materials and precision engineering. It could launch 50 arrows in 5 seconds, each one independently targeted by computer guidance. This isn't just a weapon, Haijin said as she demonstrated the Hwacha to a group of military observers. It's area denial, ship boarding defense, base protection. One Hwacha can control an entire battlefield zone. The military observers were impressed. Orders poured in. Within 3 months, every major human military installation had at least one Hwacha. Some larger bases had 10, but not everyone was happy about humanity's new direction. At the Galactic Council, Ambassador Taiyang faced increasingly hostile questions. The Threll representative demanded an explanation for humanity's barbaric return to primitive warfare. The Korthan called it an insult to modern military standards. Taiyang remained calm. We are following the treaty exactly as written. The kinetic weapons ban prohibits weapons using chemical propellants, electromagnetic acceleration, or compressed gas. Our bows and crossbows use none of these. They use elastic potential energy stored in bent materials. This is completely different technology. It's a loophole, the Threll representative clicked angrily. It's the law, Taiyang replied. If you want to ban elastic potential weapons, propose an amendment to the treaty. Until then, we're doing nothing illegal. The council debated for hours, but they couldn't find a legal way to stop humanity. The treaty language was clear. Some species wanted to vote on a new ban, but the smaller species blocked it. They had seen what the human weapons could do. They wanted access to those weapons too. Privately, delegations from 6 different species approached Taiyang. The conversation was always similar. They represented peaceful civilizations that had suffered under aggressive neighbors. They asked if humanity would be willing to share the technology. Some offered to pay. Others offered trade agreements. A few simply asked for help. Taiyang consulted with Earth's government. The decision came back quickly. Yes, humanity would share the technology. Not for money or trade deals, but to build alliances. Earth needed friends in the galaxy, and this was an opportunity to make them. Jiwoo became humanity's chief weapons liaison. She traveled to alien worlds, teaching their soldiers and security forces how to use bows and crossbows. Some species adapted quickly. Others struggled with the physical requirements. But everyone appreciated the effectiveness. The aquatic Minari, who lived on a water-covered world, were particularly enthusiastic. Their old energy weapons didn't work well underwater. But crossbows? Crossbows worked perfectly. Within 2 months, Minari security forces had completely switched to bolt-based weapons. They sent a formal thank you message to Earth, along with a trade agreement for their advanced water purification technology. Meanwhile, aggressive species that had relied on shield superiority found themselves losing their advantages. The Vrelian pirate clans tried to adapt, developing thicker armor and different tactics. But the fundamental problem remained. Their shields were expensive and now useless. Stripping them off saved money and power, but then they were just regular soldiers fighting humans who had suddenly become very good at shooting arrows. Minho led the defense of 3 border colonies in a single month, each one threatened by different hostile species. His tactics were becoming refined. He positioned archers in elevated locations with clear sight lines. He used the watcha for area suppression. He employed crossbow units for close-quarters combat in buildings and ships. And he always aimed for the gap between shield and body, the weak points in armor, the vulnerable spots that energy weapons never needed to target before. Every battle was won. Not all of them were easy, and human forces took casualties. But they won. And with each victory, more species took notice. The galaxy was learning a new lesson. Humanity wasn't helpless. They were dangerous. Maybe more dangerous now than they had been with railguns and mass drivers, because the enemy didn't know how to counter. Weapons that shouldn't work in modern warfare, Youngji, stood on the bridge of humanity's first dedicated archery assault ship. It was a modified corvette, its main guns removed and replaced with launch bays for arrow-equipped boarding teams. The ship's role was to get close to enemy vessels, fire grappling arrows across the gap, and send Marines across the cables. Once aboard, the Marines would use their crossbows and composite bows to clear the ship from inside, where shields were least effective and energy weapons risked hull breaches. "This is insane," Youngji said to her second-in-command. 6 months ago, I was testing experimental fighters. Now I'm commanding a ship designed around medieval boarding tactics. Does it bother you? Her second asked. Youngji thought about it. No, actually, I love it. We took something ancient and made it new again. That's very human, isn't it? We don't forget our past. We build on it. The ship's communication system chimed. A distress call from a human cargo vessel under attack by pirates. Youngji checked the location. 20 minutes away at maximum burn. Take us there, she ordered. Let's show them what the Longbow Division can do. 6 months after the Battle of Broken Shield Station, the galaxy looked different. Human colonies no longer feared pirate raids. 3 major aggressive species had sued for peace. Their raiding economies collapsed by sudden combat ineffectiveness. The Galactic Council had held 7 emergency sessions, trying to figure out what to do about the human problem. But they couldn't find a legal solution that didn't violate their own treaty. Daeyeon stood at attention in Earth's military headquarters as the promotion ceremony concluded. He was now Admiral Daeyeon, commander of the new Kinetic Defense Forces. His uniform bore a patch showing a crossed longbow and crossbow. It had become the symbol of humanity's unconventional approach to modern warfare. Congratulations, Admiral, Minho said, shaking his hand. Minho had been promoted too to general, but he preferred to stay in the field rather than accept a desk position. I still can't believe this is real, Daeyeon replied. A year ago I was a colony security chief with 12 people under my command. Now I'm running a military branch with 30,000 personnel across 50 star systems. You earned it. New Jeju held when every military analyst said it would fall. That victory changed everything. It really had. The Kinetic Defense Forces had grown from Minho's small experimental project into a full branch of Earth's military. They had standardized training programs, specialized equipment, and a growing reputation. Other species might mock them for using primitive weapons, but nobody wanted to fight them anymore. Jiwoo arrived late to the ceremony, apologizing. She had been on a teaching mission to the winter homeworld, trying to figure out how gaseous beings could use physical weapons. The solution turned out to be specialized containment gloves that could hold and draw bowstrings. It was strange, but it worked. The Winter are officially our allies now, Jiwoo reported. They signed a mutual defense pact yesterday. That makes 11 species in our alliance. 11, Minho repeated, impressed. A year ago we had 0 allies. Now we're building a coalition. The alliance had formed naturally. Small, peaceful species, tired of being bullied by larger, aggressive ones, had seen what humanity accomplished with bows and crossbows. They wanted the same capability. Humanity shared the technology freely, asking only for friendship in return. It was simple diplomacy, and it worked better than anyone expected. The Minari brought their water technology. The Winner shared their advances in energy efficiency. The insectoid Kellery offered their expertise in hive construction and logistics. Each species contributed something, and humanity learned from all of them. The Alliance was becoming a genuine power block in galactic politics. At the Galactic Council, Ambassador Taiyang prepared for the most important speech of his career. The Council had called a special session to discuss the tension-based weapons situation. 3 aggressive species were demanding new treaty provisions to ban humanity's bows and crossbows. 11 peaceful species were opposing any such ban. The council chamber was packed. Tang stood at the human podium, feeling the weight of 200 alien eyes watching him. Some wanted him to fail. Others were counting on him to succeed. He took a breath and began. Council members, honored delegates, you asked us here to discuss our use of elastic potential weapons. I'm happy to address your concerns. But first, let me tell you a story about humanity. The chamber quieted. Even the hostile delegates paid attention. Taiyang had learned that aliens loved human stories. They found humanity fascinating, unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous, but never boring. 10,000 years ago, my ancestors were hunters living on a peninsula in East Asia. They had no metal, no advanced tools, just wood and stone and animal parts. They were surrounded by larger, stronger predators, bears, tigers, wolves. By any logical measure, humans should have died out. We were too slow to run, too weak to fight, too small to intimidate. But we didn't die. We survived. And the weapon that saved us was the bow, a bent stick with a string shooting a sharpened stick. It seemed simple, even primitive, but that simple weapon changed everything. It let the weak kill the strong. It let the small hunt the large. It gave humanity a chance to survive when we shouldn't have. Taiyang paused, letting his words sink in. The bow has been with humanity for 10,000 years. We've used it on every continent, in every climate, in every situation. We've refined it, improved it, adapted it. We've never forgotten it. It's part of who we are. 6 months ago, you told us to abandon our modern weapons. You called them barbaric and primitive. You banned chemical propellants, electromagnetic acceleration, and compressed gas. You took away the tools we had developed over 400 years of technological advancement. You left us defenseless against species with better shields and better energy weapons. So we reached back 10,000 years. We remembered the weapon that had saved our ancestors when they were weak and surrounded by predators. We took that ancient design and brought it forward, using materials and engineering that didn't exist even 50 years ago. We created something old and new at the same time. The Thrall representative tried to interrupt, but the council chair gestured for silence. Tiang continued, You call these weapons archaic. You're right. They're thousands of years old. But you forgot something important. Humanity spent those thousands of years perfecting them. The English longbow that won battles in the 14th century took a lifetime to master. Korean composite bows were so complex that only specialized craftsmen could make them. Chinese crossbows required mathematical precision in their trigger mechanisms. We didn't abandon our past. We built our future on its foundation. And now you want to take that away too. You want to ban the one weapon system that we developed independently, that doesn't rely on alien technology, that levels the playing field between strong and weak species? Tang looked directly at the delegates from the smaller peaceful species. They were watching him with hope in their eyes. If you ban elastic potential weapons, you're not just targeting humanity. You're protecting aggressive species that use shield superiority to bully their neighbors. You're telling peaceful civilizations that they must remain victims. Is that what this council wants? The chamber erupted in argument. The aggressive species demanded order and a vote on a new ban. The peaceful species shouted them down, demanding the right to self-defense. The council chair called for multiple recesses. The debate continued for 3 hours. Finally, the vote came. Proposal to ban elastic potential weapons. The results appeared on the display. 112 votes against, 87 votes for, 48 abstentions. The proposal failed. Taiyang sat down, exhausted but relieved. The delegate from the Minari, a water-breathing species in a mobile tank, approached him after the session. "That speech will be remembered," the Minari said through their translator. "You didn't just defend your weapons. You defended every species that ever felt weak or afraid." "Thank you." Back on Luna Base, Aijin worked in her lab on the next generation of designs. She had received requests from 17 different species for specialized weapons adapted to their biology. The four-armed Korthan wanted quad-limb crossbows. The tiny Pixari needed micro-bows they could operate with their small hands. The massive Granath wanted heavy siege crossbows mounted on their shells. "We're not just making weapons anymore," she told Sunny during a break. "We're making art. Each design has to be elegant, efficient, and suited to the user. It's challenging in the best way." Sunny smiled. "That's what the ancient Bayers said too. Every bow was unique, made for a specific archer. We're returning to that tradition, but with modern tools. On Earth, children practiced archery in schools. It had become part of the standard curriculum, taught alongside mathematics and language. Some kids would become soldiers, using their skills to defend humanity. Others would become engineers, designing new weapons. Some would become historians, preserving the knowledge of ancient techniques. All of them would understand that humanity's strength came from remembering where they came from." Youngie led her longbow division on patrol through a disputed sector. 3 pirate ships detected them and immediately retreated. They didn't even try to fight. The reputation of the human archers had spread that far. "We won without firing a shot," Youngji's second-in-command observed. "That's the best kind of victory," Youngji replied. "The pirates know they can't beat us with shields. They can't match us in close combat. They can't counter weapons that shouldn't work but do. So they avoid us entirely. Do you think it will last?" Youngji considered the question. "Some species will adapt. They'll develop new armor, new tactics. The smart ones will make peace with us. The stubborn ones will keep fighting and keep losing. Either way, humanity proved something important." "What's that?" "That we don't need to be the strongest or the most advanced. We just need to be the most creative, the most adaptable, the most willing to look backward to move forward." In his office on Luna Base, Minho reviewed reports from across human space. Colony raids were down 80%. Trade was up. New settlements were being founded in areas previously considered too dangerous. The alliance was growing stronger. Applications for the kinetic defense forces exceeded available positions by 10 to 1. He pulled up a video message from Daeyun.